Hey, if you are prepping for the IBCLC exam, you're going to want to hear this. There's a big change coming to how the exam is scored, and it's really important you understand what's happening. So over the next few minutes, we are going to break down exactly what scaled scoring is, and more importantly, what it means for you. All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll pinpoint the exact date this all kicks in. Then we'll dive into the real heart of it. What's the difference between the old raw score and this new scaled score? We'll look at the new 200 to 800 point scale and how that works. We'll also unpack the really smart process that makes sure it's fair for everybody. And maybe most importantly, we'll cover what isn't changing and how all of this affects your study plan. Okay, first things first, the big question on everyone's mind. When does this all start? Let's lock in the date so you can plan accordingly. So here's the key date to circle in your calendar. This change officially begins with the April 2026 examination. So if you're taking it anytime before then, you're still under the old raw score system. But from April 2026, and for every exam after that, it's all about the new scaled scoring. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of this change. We're moving away from something called a raw score to this new scaled score. They might sound a little similar, but trust me, they're two totally different ways of looking at your performance on the exam.
Up until now, your result was based on a raw score. It's really straightforward. It's just the total number of questions you got right. So if there were 175 questions and you answered 128 correctly, your raw score was 128. Pretty simple.
But the new system uses a scaled score. And what that does is it takes your raw number of correct answers, does some statistical work on it, and then places it on a standardized scale. The big idea here is this. It's not just about how many you got right anymore, but what that number truly says about your competence level. And this is exactly what that difference will look like on your score report. Instead of seeing a fraction like 128 out of 175, you're going to see one single powerful number. A number that has the same meaning for everyone, no matter which specific version of the exam you happen to get. All right, so let's take a closer look at this new scale. Getting comfortable with this 200 to 800 range is really the key to being able to read and understand your future score report. So the scale starts at 200. You can think of this as the floor. It's the lowest possible score anyone can get on the exam. And at the very top, the scale goes all the way up to 800. If you get an 800, it means you absolutely crushed it. You demonstrated a perfect, or at least a near-perfect, command of the subject. And here it is. This is the single most important number in this whole explainer. 600. That is the passing score. A 600 or higher means you pass. And you know what the best part is? That number is fixed. It's not going to change from one exam administration to the next. Your target is always 600. Period. I absolutely love this analogy because it just makes everything click, right? Your knowledge, your actual competence, that's the heat. The scoring system is just the thermometer. It doesn't matter if it's reading in Celsius or Fahrenheit, the underlying temperature is the same. The number on the scale changes, but what it represents, your expertise, doesn't. Okay, so this probably brings up a really big and totally fair question. If every exam has a slightly different set of questions, how can you possibly score them fairly against each other? And that is a completely valid concern. I mean, you definitely wouldn't want to get a lower score just because you happen to get a slightly tougher batch of questions by random chance. Well, the answer lies in a standard statistical process that's used in pretty much all major professional certifications. And that process is called equating. Honestly, it's considered a best practice in the world of high-stakes testing because it's what guarantees fairness and reliability. Basically, it's the statistical wizardry that levels the playing field, making sure every single person is being measured against the exact same standard of competence. So here's how that actually plays out. Let's say you get a slightly harder version of the exam. Well, the equating process accounts for that, meaning you might only need to get, say, 120 questions right to earn that passing scaled score of 600. But if you get a slightly easier exam version, you might need to answer more questions correctly, maybe 132, to prove the very same level of knowledge. The bottom line is, a 600 is a 600 is a 600. It always means the same thing. Okay, we've spent a lot of time on what's changing. But honestly, it's just as important, maybe even more important, to talk about what is staying exactly the same. This is really key for your peace of mind while you're studying. So yeah, the score format is changing, and the passing mark is now fixed at 600, which is awesome. But look at the really fundamental stuff. The exam content, what you actually need to know, and the standard of competence required to pass. Those are identical. They are not changing at all. Let me be crystal clear here. The exam blueprint is not changing. The level of knowledge you need to pass is not changing. The difficulty of the questions, the standards, none of that is changing. All of your study materials and resources are still 100% relevant. This is purely a change in how your score is reported, not what the exam expects you to know. Okay, so let's bring this all home. Let's talk about the real so what of all this. What does the shift actually mean for you and your study plan as you move forward? This has always been the true heart of the IBCLC and CAME, and really, scaled scoring just shines a brighter light on it. This test has never been about just memorizing facts. It's about your clinical judgment. It's about how you apply what you know in situations you might actually encounter. So what you need to do is pretty simple. First, keep your focus right where it should be, on clinical reasoning. Don't just memorize facts. Understand the why behind them. Second, continue to use the official exam blueprint as your roadmap. It tells you everything you need to know. And finally, just trust the process. This new system is a good thing. It's designed to make scoring more fair, consistent, and clear for everyone. At the end of the day, this change really helps you shift your focus. You can stop worrying about some magic number of correct answers and instead put all your energy toward what this certification is truly about: demonstrating your skill, your knowledge, and your readiness to be an amazing IBCLC.